Well, good evening one and all. Paul Lyons here from paintings.nz. Tonight, I suppose, sort of exercise in gradated washes. You can see I've done an extensive preliminary sketch here, and sky, beach, bit of land, bit of sea is the layout for this evening's painting. So I'm going to put a bit of greenish sort of colour, sort of greenish, almost green, type of nearly green down by the horizon area. It'll be sort of nearly green. So I've broken out the turquoise paint, and I'm going to have to knock it back because I don't really want it to be full strength turquoise, but just something on the horizon that smacks of a vague sort of greenishness. That's going to be quite a challenge, I think, for somebody like me, somebody colourblind. So the idea is that I'll try and counteract the turquoise with red, I suppose. But the red is very strong, and it's going to be quite interesting trying to produce a colour that isn't overwhelmed by the red. So I've put a bit of turquoise paint down here on my board, and now we're going to try and do the desaturation of that paint. In fact, I might try and do that up here somewhere. And I imagine that I will need far less red paint than I have just put on the board. So let's take that away and pick up pretty much all of the turquoise and just put in a small amount of red and progressively adulterate the green. Better try and move that away from the red, because otherwise I'll get the red puddle moving right into the green. Tell me when I go too far, will you? Does that knock some of the greenishness out of it? It's very difficult for me to tell. I find that I can easily distinguish greens that... I'm using a lot more red than I imagined. I can easily distinguish greens that are biased towards yellow and greens that are biased towards blue, but greens that are somewhere in the middle I find quite difficult to distinguish from grey. So whether or not that's a suitable colour, I really don't know. It just, it still looks fairly green to me. Well, it still looks fairly not red to me, and I can't really tell whether it's. Pick up the rest of that red. In fact, I might even going to add some more. Now remember, you're going to tell me when I make it too red, aren't you? Gone far enough? Of course, I don't want it. I mean, this is sky colour. It's not going to be dark. I need it to be quite light down by the horizon. So I want it to be fairly diluted, so let's add some more. Let's wet that again. For the 473rd time. Right, so there's a fair amount of liquid still in that sky, I think I might. Add just a little bit more. If you've been following these paintings, you'll have noticed me doing sky colour and then spraying more water on because it's not wet enough. Well, let's try and make it wet enough to start with this evening. And oh, that's really blue-green colour on the side of the brush there. And I think you just can't tell. So we'll don't want to stick my arm in that. Oh, it's far too strong, isn't it? Wow. So that's going along the horizon and then lifting up, so it's going to avoid the land there. So let's just let that do a bit of. Ooh, that's obviously not being properly wetted at that location. Just let the paint move, which should have the effect of reducing the intensity of it down towards the horizon, and also gradating it out across the well, why that's not properly wet there I don't know, and gradating it out across the sky. So that's our first, and I wonder if we have two, haven't we? We've got some paper chromatography going on here. I think the colours are separating out, aren't they? Which I hadn't anticipated. So I think the green's getting left behind, and the red is moving down the paper. Quick lesson in chromatography: when you have a mixture of compounds, you put them onto a retarding medium, which in this case is the paper, and you try and move them on the retarding medium with some accelerating medium, which in this case is the water. And because of the different physical properties of the two materials, in this case the green paint and the red paint, one of them gets carried by the accelerating medium, the water, more than the other one, which is held by the retarding medium, which is the paper. So it's a good way of separating out chemical compounds, and is used in many circumstances. Forensic scientists seem to use chromatography quite a lot, but well, other people as well. All right, so we'll live with that. And I think the way we'll live with it is to dry it. Don't know about this bit here where it hasn't moved up, but I think I'll just leave that as it is. So I think we'll dry it at this point, and then try and apply a blue wash down from the top to run into that. And we've got another separation of the colours up on the board here, where the red is now much more prevalent than it was before, presumably because the turquoise paint has sunk to the bottom, leaving the red on the top. So that's an interesting phenomenon. So now let's try and dry the board here. Otherwise I'm likely to get backruns from the edge, and I'm probably going to get them anyway because the edge of the paper is not properly dried. All right, so let's now spread some more water. Having disrupted the nice plainer surface of the paper with the application of wet paint and then hot air. So it's buckled quite considerably, which is going to make applying the blue layer interesting. Try to get that to sit evenly on the surface. I was hoping it might flatten out a bit when I wet it again, but it doesn't seem to have. Doesn't seem to want to cooperate. So I might. I might. He says actually starting to do it. Wet the back of the paper and hope to glue it down onto the board using the surface tension. So yeah, just put my finger into the turquoise. So let's hold that down, and the water on the board, if we're lucky, will hold the paper flat as it gloms onto the acrylic sheet underneath. One reason for cleaning the acrylic sheet, which I did the other night, is to allow this to happen. If it's got a whole bunch of paint on top of it, like this area on the left hand side here, it doesn't tend to stick quite as much. Alright, so where do we go from here? We add some blue, so let's add it to the brush first, and then there's far too much water in the surrounding area really, but let's just do this first of all and then see if we can address in fact there's a lot of water. Well, I'm going to pick up the paper anyway, I think. So yeah, this great pool of water is far too much. Now see if we can get this paint to flow around the surface of the paper without forming very obvious areas. Who told you that watching paint dry is boring? It's nerve-wracking. Oh yes, we've got that running up on that landscapey, that hilly edge there. Don't particularly want a special thing there, so let's clean that up. And let's absorb any water that manages to make its way down to the edge, so that we don't get too much in the way of backruns. So that's given us a reasonably even sort of I'll probably want to try and, I don't know whether I'll be able to get rid of that white that's appearing there. See if we can run some paint up there, maybe a little bit. Run some paint back. Now that's making it white again. So let's run it back down again, and at that stage, I'll clean it up with a towel. So I suppose that's why it went white there, because I took away the sort of water pressure, as it were. Okay, let's dry it again. So I've put in a small sliver of sea on the left hand side with a little bit of the blue removed to indicate a bit of wave action there, and now I think we need to, well, we'll put some land in on the right hand side. So let's dampen that area. It probably doesn't need it. I'm not trying to produce a beautifully even wash here. I'm just trying to indicate some land, but well, we've done it now, so it's rather darker green than I was after. I'm really after a straw colour. So again, I'm trying to tone my green down by adding red to it. Just a bit of variation in the colour where the grass has come down. Towards the beach. And we don't want the top of it to be even, especially this right hand corner where the dunes are close to where we're standing. And just do that. That's probably enough, I think. And then right down at the beach level, there's a bit of a dark line. Whether that'll show up or not. Let's darken it a bit more, because I'm going to be adding a fair amount of dark into the beach as we go on. And then in the distance there's a headland. Tiny little details. Some of these things that give the impression of reality. Alright, so that being done, now I think what I'll do is to put a blue wash over the whole of the beach area, and then start trying to darken it. So again, Strike rules. Puddle of green. Again, we put down a whole bunch of water molecules. I read somewhere that water molecules have been around since the very early days of the universe. I don't mean that water is a as a concept, the oxidation of hydrogen. The actual molecules of water that we drink, bathe in, whatever, are amongst the oldest molecules in existence. I don't know where I picked up that piece of information from or whether it's true, but that was something I read. As you know, if you read something, it must be true. So, now, actually want this to be quite a lot lighter as we get further, or get closer to the horizon. So, I'll squeeze some of the pigment out. And so the beach is covered in pools of water, basically. So there are areas where the sand is very dark. One of which I'm attempting to colour in at the moment. It's not really behaving all that well. It's, I suppose it's doing the sort of thing I was after. And then there are other places where the dark is not so intense. You get little bits of dark sand that stick up out of the pools of water. Getting all these variations. Further away you get, of course, the more horizontal the angle is, so the less extent these items have in the vertical direction, but they tend to retain their horizontal width, which is kind of contradictory to what you'd expect. You know, if you've had this railway lines get closer and closer together as they get further and further away from you, till eventually they meet at the horizon. You'd think that if you've got something that's sort of like a river of, in this case, a river of sand going into the distance, that the sides of the river would get closer together, and therefore that the horizontal back and forthness of it would not be so apparent. But it's the extent in that direction that disappears. Okay, and what we're drawing in now, I presume, is the bar. Which is quite dark. So the tide's way out at this point. I have to say that painting a beach with the tide out is much more fun than painting a beach with the tide in. You have to find something interesting when the tide's in. It's just a bunch of sand and some water, but this is far more it's got far more character to it, I think. Don't like the way the water is, the paint is spreading there, but there's not a lot I can do about it. So as the paper is drying, slowly the way it takes up the paint is changing. So the paint is staying where I put it a little bit more now than it was when it was first applied into a wet surface. Still not like painting on dry paper, but I'd kind of like to clear away that edge there. I don't know whether this is a dangerous thing to be doing or not. Sorry, I've just knocked your camera, I beg your pardon. So we'll give it a go. We'll see whether or not running this. Yeah, it seems to be working. Along the edge there, I've just picked up a little bit more blue than I wanted to from there, but that's all right, I think. That. And similarly, I wonder if I can clear away some of this edge. So it doesn't look quite so much like paint diffusing into a wet area. See there, I've picked up more blue than I really wanted to, but it's still not too bad. I must have dropped the brush, sorry, not the brush, the towel over that area. It's had the paint picked up from it. And let us try again to wick up some pigment and prevent it from diffusing too much. I don't mind if the background colour is picked up from there so much as I did down here. I think this is probably about the stage where I should leave well enough alone. So that's going to diffuse a little bit. Yes, it's not separating out the way sorry, it's not blending with the paint that's there as much as I wanted it to. So yeah, that bit's dried out too much for good diffusion. And there as well. So methinks that the paint is telling me that it's time to stop. I should probably put in, and this is going to be very delicate, I should probably put in a dark line on the sea at the horizon, because otherwise it just sort of stands up as a flat surface of paint. I'm not succeeding very well with that brush, so I'll swap to another one. Smaller brush for doing this delicate. Can't get it to be sufficiently wet. Oh, let me pick up some water from there. There we go, that's better. So let's see if we can just put in a bit of a dark edge on the horizon. Try to indicate that there is something a long way away that's affecting the colour of the water. And maybe also something under these waves, just a little bit. Otherwise they look very flat also. So nobody will be able to see that from more than a metre away. It's a bit superfluous, probably. Oh no, it does work. It has laid the sea a bit flatter, I think. That's what I was hoping for. Yep. Good-o. So, thank you for keeping me company for the evening, and I think I'll sign off now. Good night.